So when you were in the Cape, I know in college you started a bunch and you were also a reliever, and now you're a full-time reliever. When did that like transition from starter to reliever happen? Was that kind of gradual? Were you
Yeah,
split for a while?
I'd say in college I was mostly a reliever. And in summer ball both those years, 13 and 14 I was a reliever. I think freshman year in the Hamptons League, I think I started a couple games. So at the end of the day, at St. John's, what's great is that there's a lot of opportunities, and it's not like going to, University of North Carolina where maybe if you've a bad outing, you may not pitch the rest of the year. At St. John's, it's a super high level program, but the coaches really give opportunities there to the players. And the roles change constantly, just because you're the Friday guy week one, that could change, which is totally fair, because whoever's hot pitches in the prime game. It's only fair that way. So just like most of the guys on our team, I did a little bit of everything. What's cool about in college is that you play 3 game series on the weekends, plus you play 1 or 2 games during the weekdays. So sometimes I would start on the weekdays, midweek game, and then pitch in relief on the weekend, and vice versa. I think sometimes I may have pitched in relief during the weekdays and pitch relief on the weekend, or pitch in relief on the weekdays and start on the weekend. So did a little bit of everything, starting, short relief, mid relief. I think might have closed a couple of games. Um, definitely just, I guess, like a utility pitcher. But so was most of the staff at St. John's.
That's so interesting. Did you have the same kind of pitch repertoire and same pitch arsenal as you do now? Like, or did you have to alternate it based off like starting and then relieving?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, same pitches. Mostly fastball, slider, some changeup mixed in. The changeup's a lot better now than it was as of 2 weeks ago. I'm starting to finally learn the changeup. I mean,
I love it.
some things just take so much longer than you wish, but I absolutely love the process. But to answer your question, similar pitches. Obviously your body develops and changes over time, so I'm sure the pitches move a little bit differently now than it did then. So similar, but not exactly the same, I would say.
Gotcha. Just because I see like a lot of guys come up, like if they're a position player, especially, like they'll completely change their arm slot from like one to another. You're like maybe they'll go like 2 slots down compared to straight over the top. So it looks like you've been pretty consistent.
Yeah, from a release point, very consistent. I throw over top now, but
Oh yeah,
I was not a side armor in college.
not a slinger.
No.
Our teammate Justin Wong is a grad student at St. John's. He works with the St. John's pitchers now on like a volunteer basis, helping them out with like drive line and like those development tools that pretty much all collegiate and pro pitchers use now. Obviously, you're familiar with that. Was that available to you at the time, in the early 2010s?
I was at St. John's 2013 to 15, and weighted balls was kind of new then. I remember like 2014 or 15, I started using weighted balls, and Coach Blackmeyer asked me what I was doing, and then I think he told me like I didn't really need it. And then it's crazy how things change, because like a year or two later, the whole pitching staff was doing weighted ball programs, but I was already, 1 or 2 years gone at that point. So yeah, there were a lot of changes in just in the last few years. Um, Quite a bit, a ton of changes. Even my first year in pro ball, usually in the minor leagues, or at least back then, if you were a starting pitcher and you weren't pitching, you'd be recording or taking video of the starting pitcher from the stands or a dugout or whatever. And we had like pocket cameras, and they probably weren't even HD, right? It was all these. I have all this like grainy video on my phone from 2015, and now in 2020, last year 2022, 2023, even 2021. Some of these minor league stadiums have multi-million-dollar cameras, so there's been a lot of change technologically in the last few years.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of videos of like guys on TikTok with like those still action cameras that are able to like hyper focus on the subject. And
All that. Yeah.
yeah, but they're playing for like the Binghamton Rumble Ponies and like, Lexington Legends, like even like, Tampa Tarpons, like high A. And it's really cool how that's been able to not just be limited to like the MLB game, but all throughout the professional game. So like
Yep.
how did that development kind of evolve? You were with a bunch of different organizations. You were with the White Sox and the Cubs, right? At some point.
Yeah, White Sox, Cubs, Royals, and Orioles also.
So how did their like minor league like pitching philosophies impact your development? Were there like, especially in a time of a lot of evolution with this new, analytics and these new pitching techniques, how did that kind of impact how you pitched and how you approached your development?
Yeah, I mean every team is definitely different from one another. Some small differences, some large differences. With some organizations, it trickles down from the big league team and what the pitching coach in the big league team believes. So, meaning that you could be with one organization for multiple years and their philosophy could actually change, right? So the Orioles' philosophy, I'm sure, is different now than it was in 2018. With a different regime, different front office, and different coaching staff. So, just like the game has changed in recent years, I'd say every organization, just in the last 2, 3 years, has changed philosophies drastically. But most organizations do a good job of not having a cookie cutter approach, individualizing the development. And I know a lot of organizations are actually doing more mini camps throughout the off season. Because if you think about it, most of the development is during the off season, right? And during the off season, most of the time you're on your own, right? So you're just learning from whoever you're around. Some guys don't even live at home. They stay in Florida or Arizona and train at facilities or at the spring training complex, right? So everybody is in a different situation. Some guys are in warm weather, some guys are in cold weather. Um, I don't think there's much development during the season, right? During spring training, you're competing your butt off to make a team. You finally make a team, and then it's you can't really try new things during the season, right? If you do, it has to be minor adjustments. But you're not gonna all of a sudden change everything you work for in the off season, because they're looking at the stats during the season, and you can't say, hey, don't count this game because I was trying something new. So development is a very intricate thing. And obviously there's no such thing as perfection, but I think these organizations are changing a lot from year to year, trying to figure out how to maximize development of their prospects.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me how much differences there are between organizations, and also how limited of a time you get due the due the due to the competitive nature to like actually evolve your craft for most of the year. But I think that's a good segue into your off-season work. I know you're a frequent member or attendee of the Adam Ottavino pitching lab in Harlem. How long you been going there for, and what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so I met Adam, I think in 2013, my freshman year, that off season. It could have been like fall or winter of 2012. But Adam used to live in Brooklyn. That's where he grew up, and he would actually drive out to Long Island every day to work out. And we were at the same workout facility. Or a bunch of pro and big league guys there. Jose Reyes, Steven Matz, Pedro Beato, a few other guys were there. And then eventually, 6 or 7 years later, when Adam moved to Manhattan, it became kind of a hassle to drive out to Long Island every day. So I'm not sure where he worked out, but he opened up a spot in Harlem, and it was a pitching lab, and it's not a public facility. It's just for him and a couple of guys. Those first few years, it was really just like me, Adam, and like one or two other guys. And then he had it the following year, and then there was one year where he didn't have it. But he was on the Yankees at that point, so I believe he was able to go to Yankee Stadium and work out. And then the following year he got it back. So the last 2 years we've had it, and this year is by far the most crowded. Which is a good thing. I think there's just 2 days ago there were like 6 or 7 big leaguers in a row that pitched. So, I mean that's priceless info. Obviously the only monetary exchange is tipping the catcher. It's not like Driveline or these facilities where you're paying thousands of dollars a month. You can't. No money can buy the amount of info and this environment that you're in, with just interacting with these guys and learning from them and watching them and then watching you and talking.
Yeah, man, it's been such an unreal experience watching y'all get to work and just seeing all the different like inputs and intakes that guys come out with, and like they just like the back and forth that you can hear just like walking through, the lab from time to time is crazy. I mean, like these guys are the best in the game, and they're like, you can tell that they're just like hard at work trying to perfect their craft.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, it's such a great like little setup. I've been in there once, Alex, and definitely not public for sure. But it's awesome to just like absorb the knowledge around there.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great, and you never know who's gonna show up. There were a few times where a guy showed up who's not even from New York. I guess they were just visiting, and I think last year Kershaw and Scherzer were gonna come because they have like the award dinner every year in Manhattan for like the Gold Glove, Cy Young, the baseball writers dinner. And I think they were going to show up, but it was really nice out that day. And I think instead they were playing catch at Central Park or something like that.
That's sick. That's such a flex too, to be like, oh, I might get a Cy Young today. Let me stop by the lab on the way.
Hey, that's why we have an autograph full.
Yeah.
I'm on there, baby.
It's filling up.
Dude, that thing is loaded. I mean, shout out to Gerardo for doing all that work too.
Oh yeah. Shout out to G. The man.
Homie. Bullpen catcher, by the way, in case anyone's curious.
Yep. Yeah. He put in the work the day that I saw him. I think he caught like 7 guys. Maybe.
It's also like just the way that he spruced that place up within such a short amount of time. Like I was gone in Europe for about a month, and beforehand it was pretty much bare bones. And then when I get back, it was like fully just state-of-the-art equipment. Like everything looked so organized. So like you can tell that he put insane amount of time and effort into just making sure that place looked spotless.
Yeah, I mean, I think he slept there for 2 nights.
Wow.
Renovated the whole place. I mean, it's always been cool and nice, but I mean now it looks like a basement in like some mansion. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I could live in there.
I don't know if I'd spend the night there.
We've thrown around that idea a few times.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy in the back, right?
Stay away from the ATM machine.